I'm going to try and keep this video as short and to the point as possible, but essentially I've just over the last couple of weeks picked up this Nanlite Pavotube 30C 2 light kit. So there's 2 lights in here. These are like the 4 foot long RGB WW tube lights. So they can go any colour, and they can go cold white, daylight, warm white, kind of can do whatever you need them to do. I picked up these lights for 2 reasons. Number one is to use for normal interview lighting setups. When I want something that is super portable, lightweight, easy to set up, doesn't need massive softboxes and loads of cables everywhere. That was first reason. Second reason was when I have got a bit more time to do a nice setup, having lights that allow me to change the colour of the background, add in something a bit more interesting, wasn't something I already had. So those were the 2 reasons I wanted to get these lights. When I was trying to decide whether or not these were the right things for me, it was pretty hard to find videos on YouTube that showed me just them being used in a normal situation, so that I could gauge, like, are these bright enough? Are these colourful enough? Are these the kind of things that I want? So basically I'm not going to try and sell them to you. I'm just going to show you how well they work. I think they're pretty good. Show a couple of the use cases for them, and hopefully that'll be helpful. So I'm not going to do a full unboxing, but essentially in this bag you get 2 of the lights, and you get all the clips and cables and mounts that you'd need to use them. One of the biggest issues with these lights that I hadn't thought about before was that although they're nice and big in this direction, left to right, so you get a nice soft light source that way, they're obviously super narrow this way. So what that means is you don't get shadows in one direction, but you do in the other. Kind of hard to explain, but essentially if the light was here, like that, pointing at my face, and I had my hand going like this across, there wouldn't really be a shadow because there's light coming from above and below the light. If I move my arm like that, there'd be like load of shadow straight away. So you just gotta be aware of that. Having 2 lights to fill in the gaps is useful. You can get these lights just on their own. I got the 2 pack, and you can also get a smaller version as well. So this is the 30C. They make a 15C, which is about half the size, and a 6C, which is like even smaller again. This is the one I'd recommend for most things, unless you're working in a really, really small space and want the smallest light possible. These have slightly better battery life, I think, and they're big enough to give you relatively soft light when you're using it for a background. At the moment I've got a big window in front of me lighting everything, me and the back wall. I'm going to set up 2 of these lights, one each side of the frame, so there and there, pointing at the background, just to show you how much colour you can get when you've still got a lot of daylight. That was one of the use cases that I couldn't find an example for online, so I can do that first. If you're planning on getting 1 or 2 of these lights, you've probably already seen loads of unboxing videos, but essentially they come with 1 or 2 of these clamps, which just go onto a normal light stand mount, or a tripod plate, whatever you want, and then that whole thing just clamps onto the tube to give you a nice mounting point that doesn't cast a shadow. So I'm going to set up these 2 lights now, sit back in this position, and hopefully that'll give you an idea of how much colour you can get on a background. Okay, so this is the lights set up either side of me. I've left them in the shot so you can see whereabouts they are, how far they are. They work alright. You can see some of the issue I was talking about earlier in terms of the shadows, particularly on this wall. So because the lights are both vertical, basically anything that is cutting across vertically will cast a shadow on the back wall. So if you were lighting a background where there's a lot of objects on it, like this, so if it's not just a completely plain backdrop, you may then want to look at an RGB panel rather than just an RGB tube. If there was no computer screen and shelves behind me, this would work out pretty well. I'll go through a couple of colour options just so you can see how they work. So obviously red, that's what blue would look like, and then a nice green. Obviously they're quite washed out because I've still got the window open right in front of me, so on set when you can control the lighting a bit more, the colours would be a lot punchier. In fact, if I just shut the blind now, you'll see the difference it makes. I haven't got a key light set up, but already you can see how much more the colours come through when there's not loads of white fill that fills the whole scene. I'll quickly run through the colours again. In this mode, so green, red, and then blue. So obviously if you had a separate key light, you could then light the subject and have different coloured background to the subject. Works quite well. So that was the first use case for this setup, having a nice coloured background that you can work with when you're wanting to do something a little bit more interesting. The other reason I got this was for like a key fill backlight kind of setup to use with other lights when I'm working on set. So I'm going to try and demo roughly what that would look like. I'm in quite a small room, but roughly what that could look like just with a couple of lights. So let's do that now. So the back of the light has just got a bunch of buttons. One click takes you to CCT mode, which is the white mode. So that's obviously what we'd be using for an interview. So this is just a very simple setup with the 2 lights for I guess like a quick run and gun interview setup. So I've got one of the Pavotubes just off camera up here on a slightly cold white setting at about 60% brightness. So everything we were doing with the colours was all at 100%. This is now just at 60%. And then the backlight, which you can just see over there, that's like 3 feet away from me, is on 40% at a much lower colour temperature. So it just gives a slight colour contrast. Again, I've got the blinds shut, so without these lights on, it would be a pretty dark room. That's without the key light. So this is just kind of the backlight that I've gone. Super subtle look, but again, this could go way brighter. This is just on 40% at the moment. To turn it up, we could, I mean, that's now backlight on 100%, and then the key light on, again, about 60%. So you've got a lot of versatility with what you can do. I think these things, when they're on 100% brightness, last for like 2 hours on battery. You can see the percentage on the little screen on the back, which is super useful. They also come with a adapter to plug them in as well, so for longer shoots, that works fine. The only thing that's worth knowing, if you buy the 2 light kit, the cable that comes with it lets you connect and plug in both the lights, but it's one cable for 2 lights, and so the lights have to be like within a couple of feet of each other. That was like one of the downsides that I noticed straight away. Really useful for charging up the lights, but if you're wanting to use them on set like this, you would need to buy another power adapter to be able to mains power them both, unless you're just doing a really short setup. So hopefully that helps you work out whether or not these are the kind of lights that would be useful for what you want to do. They're super versatile, they pack down in a really small bag, and just generally they're great lights for so many different things. If you have any specific questions or use cases that you want me to try setups for, let me know, can do that. That's what I was really struggling with when I was trying to decide. So if there's like a specific thing you're thinking, I wonder if it would let me do this, send me a message, drop a comment, and I'll give it a go. But otherwise, thanks for watching.